Hello, Grats and Gets. Welcome back to Happy Crepin Wargaming. We're going to talk about the Sisters of Battle today with Champions of Faith. Brand new detachment. That's pretty freaking cool looking. Now, before we get started, here's the deal. I understand the balanced status slate destroyed Sisters. They kicked them in the face, threw them in the dumpster. I recognize what happened, and I actually do feel for you. It was way too much of an overreaction for a GW for what they did to Sisters in this latest balanced status slate. So, when I'm reading through this detachment, I am doing it under the assumption that GW will undo some of the changes in the next balanced data slate because they way overdid it. And every time they've way overdone anything, they've always undone it in the next balanced data slate. So I have faith that they will fix that. So let's go ahead and do this with the thought process of how this army will be working, not necessarily how it works this instantly, because honestly, I don't see how you run any sisters right now. All right, so righteous purpose is going to be the detachment rule of the Champions of Faith. Pretty cool. In your command phase, you can discard up to 3 of your miracle dice. So it might be a little bit hard to proc this turn 1, but in all reality, there's very little going on combat-wise in turn 1 in most games. So I don't really think it's that big an issue. Of course, this detachment will tell you right off the bat, since its army rule requires you to discard miracle dice, you're going to need miracle dice generation, which means you want battle sisters, right? There's a few other ways to do it as well throughout the sisters. So you're going to discard up to 3 of your miracle dice. Now, for each dice discarded, you get to select 1 Adeptus Sororitas unit from your army, and until the start of your next command phase, that unit is righteous. Now, right off the bat, what this tells us is that this rule is not restricted to data sheets, because this can apply to anything in the army, which is important. When a unit is righteous, you get to add 1 to the movement characteristic of models in the unit, and improve the leadership characteristic of models in that unit by 1. Now, I don't necessarily understand the value of improving the leadership characteristics with miracle dice, as long as you have bad miracle dice at 10, well, never mind. I think that's useful. No, that's definitely useful, because now it just makes it easy to pass battle shocks and stuff like that. So that is useful. Forgive me. All right. Now, the third part is data sheet restricted. The third part is going to be improve the weapon skill and ballistic skill characteristic of weapons, which is cool. Weapon skill and ballistic skill. And important to note, this is not a +1 to hit because it changes the way you can be modified. Equipped by Battle Sisters, Celestian Sacrosancts, and Paragon Warsuits in the unit by 1. So this is cool. Right off the bat, what do we see? We see that what they're trying to do is they're trying to give you a detachment where you don't have to have Mormon Vol leading Paragon Warsuits. Can they make Paragon Warsuits stand on their own 2 feet? And they're definitely going to try. They also want to push you into Battle Sisters, which you want in this detachment anyway, because you're going to have to discard Miracle Dice in order to really proc your army's detachment rule. And then lastly, your Celestian Sacrosancts. Now, while a Celestian Sacrosant unit from your army is not battle shocked, add 1 to the objective control characteristic of the Sacrosant models in the unit. So basically, you just get to double your OCN Sacrosants, which is cool. Now, let's talk about some of these enhancements. Some of them are cool, some of them are weird, some of them are oddly just kind of repeats. So, Triptych of Judgment. Any Adeptus Sororitas model, so any character, each time a model in the bearer's unit makes an attack, you get to ignore any or all modifiers to that attack's ballistic skill or weapon skill characteristic, and or any modifiers to the hit roll. So if people have -1 to hit, if you're playing Death Guard and they're trying to make you -1 ballistic skill or -1 weapon skill, not up in here. This is actually a strong, solid enhancement, and I think it's appropriately costed because it's not going to come up all that much, especially when you consider that you can stack a lot of your units with a +1 to weapon skill and ballistic skill in this detachment anyway. So it's fairly cheap, and I think it should be. So I think that's a well-done enhancement. Mark of Devotion for 30 points. This is going to apply to any Adeptus Sororitas model that can take it, so any of your characters. It's 30 points, a little expensive. Add 1 to the attack's characteristic of the bearer's melee weapons. Okay, that doesn't sound good for 30 points, but let's keep reading. While the bearer's unit is righteous, you get to add 2 to the attack's characteristic and add 1 to the damage characteristic instead. Suddenly, this gets actually pretty dang spicy. So what are we immediately thinking about this one? Well, in all reality, as far as I can tell, you're probably going to be wanting to look at that Canoness with a jump pack, because now she's going to have her Blessed Halberd or even her Holy Eviscerator, and you're going to go to 7 attacks at damage 3. That's pretty solid. Or you could do the Holy Eviscerator, go up to 5 attacks with sustained hits 1 and damage 3. But I think you probably go the Blessed Halberd simply because when you're going to attach her to the Zephyrim, which you're 100% going to be attaching her to the Zephyrim, they're going to give you sustained and or lethal at this anyway, just because that's the Zephyrum's special ability. Now, when you stack this buff with the Canonist with Jump Pack's natural ability, which is Divine Deliverance, once per battle at the start of the fight phase, this model can use this ability. If it does, until the end of the phase, add 3 to the attacks characteristic of melee weapons equipped by this model, and those weapons have dev wounds. Suddenly, this chick is going to go up to 10 attacks at strength 5, damage 3, dev wounds. Excuse me. And not only is that, but she's also going to get lethal and or sustained from the unit that she's attached to. Oh, actually, I may have misspoken there. Let me check just to make sure I'm not misspeaking there. Yeah, actually, I am misspeaking there. Forgive me. So the only the power weapons in the Zephyrum squad are going to get the sustained and lethal, so that actually will not apply to the Canonist. Forgive me. I know I made a boo-boo. Type it in the comments, but it is what it is. Anyway, so let's go on to the next enhancement that we have here. But still, very good. 10 attacks, strength 5, AP2, damage 3 with dev wounds. Not freaking bad. And then there's going to be some strats further on that's going to even make her even more psycho. So pretty good. I know she doesn't get sustained lethal. Relax, relax, relax. Let's go to the Eyes of the Oracle enhancement. Adeptus Sororitas model only. The bearer's weapon have the precision ability. Each time the bearer's unit destroys an enemy character model, you can gain 1 CP. In all reality, this is just a 1 CP or a 10-point enhancement that you'll throw on someone to give yourself permanent precision. It's not really that important. Won't really change the game at all. Sometimes you have 10 points left over, so you take it. It is what it is. You probably put that on a Canonist or a Jump Pack Canonist as well. Sanctified Amulets. Adeptus Sororitas model only. Enemy units that are set up on the battlefield from reserves cannot be set up within 12 inches. This is always good. 12-inch Deep Strike Denial is very, very, very powerful. It makes a big difference in the game. It's maybe a little bit less useful now that your 3-inch Deep Strikes disappeared, but trust me, there is a lot of 6-inch Deep Strikes in the game. And if we start looking at, say, like the new Grey Knight's detachment, now we have a precedence where a 6-inch Deep Strike you can also charge out of, which is very strong. So having the ability to screen these is a big freaking deal. Let's start talking about some of these stratagems and how we might combine this to make a really functional Sisters army. And remember, I'm talking in the context assuming that some of the astronomically harsh nerfs to Sisters are going to be changed. Hopefully they don't reverse the Exorcist, because Exorcist just shouldn't exist in the game. Just like Whirlwinds and Space Marines shouldn't exist. Just like Indirect should not exist in the game. All right, rant over. Shield of Denial. 1 CP. When any phase just after a mortal wound is allocated to an Adeptus Sororitas unit from your army. That Adeptus Sororitas unit. They're going to get a 6-up Field of Pain against mortal wounds. If you're righteous, then until the end of the phase, you'll have a 5-up Field of Pain against mortal wounds. All right. This is probably the worst stratagem they have. They do all get better from here. Trust me on that one. I'm going to go on a quick little tangent here. I despise this stratagem. This is just indicative of really bad game design, in my opinion. You see this cropping up all over the place, where every other army gets a stratagem that goes, you just have a 5-up Field of Pain against mortal wounds. But Sisters, it's worse, unless you fulfill some sort of qualifier, which makes it equal. I mean, if that's the case, no, that should never be. You should have the same power as everyone else. Now, they can do little things in there that if you fulfill a qualifier X, it gets better. That's cool. But having to jump through hoops just to get to the same level of everyone else is just a bad game design, and I really wish GW would stop doing this. They did this in... Oh, let's just take Orcs, for example. Bringers of Fire, Bringers of Flame, Sisters, every single unit in the army gets Advance and Shoot. Okay. Then you look at Orcs, their Advance and Shoot detachment is only Speed Freak models. Why? Like, clearly, like, what is this? Why do we put certain restrictions on some armies just to intentionally make them worse, and then they have to jump through hoops just to get to the baseline where other armies just get much better? It's bad game design, and they need to get better at writing these. So I would much rather prefer if this was, hey, you have a 5-up Field of Pain against mortals, just like literally everyone else has, and if you're righteous, we're going to give you a 4-up. That would be a much better design stratagem. All right, let's talk about some actually good stratagems. Sisters tied for the best stratagem in the entire game right with this one. Path of the Righteous. When? Fight phase. 1 Adeptus Sororitas unit from your army that has not been selected to fight this phase. Until the end of the turn, each time a model in your unit makes a pylon or consolidation move, I know where this is going, it can move up to 6 inches instead of 3. This is so strong. It's such an amazing good strat. A 6-inch pylon consolidate is so powerful, but it gets freaking better. When doing so, if your unit is righteous, this is how they need to word these stratagems. It does not need to end that move closer to the closest enemy model, provided it ends that move as close as possible to the closest enemy unit. This is powerful. Holy crap, is this a strong strat or what? Basically, this is removing the restrictions on your pile-in and consolidation movements. Unbelievably strong. You're going to be able to wrap transports with trash. You're going to be able to charge one unit and then pile in and attack the other unit that you weren't going to be able to reach otherwise. This is you're going to use the 6-inch consolidation to tag tanks so that they're going to spend their turn falling back and they can't move forward. This is a amazing stratagem, and if you like, just trust me on this one. This stratagem by itself can make this detachment worth playing. It is brutally efficient. You're gonna love this on your Zephyrim. You're gonna probably like this a lot on, say, Paragons. Although I'm not sold on Paragons. I think they're a little too expensive. You're gonna like this on your Sacrosancts. You're gonna like this on a lot of your units. It's just an amazing stratagem that's gonna be incredible in literally any detachment in the game. Suffer Not the Unfaithful is going to be 1 CP, and this will be in your shooting phase or the fight phase. 1 Adeptus Sororitas unit, once again, not keyword locked, which is why I really like this detachment. It's not keyword locked. Everything gets to benefit. Select either lethal or sustained hits 1. Boom. Listen, having lethal or sustained on demand is pretty freaking awesome. It's just a solid dang stratagem. You can pump it out anytime. You're always going to want to be either lethal or sustained. It's always going to be useful. Having it on demand for 1 CP is freaking great. Bastion of Faith for 1 CP. Now, this one is going to be keyword locked, but it's the only stratagem they have that's keyword locked. Fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. 1 Celestian Sacrosancts unit that was selected as the target of one or more of the attacking unit's attacks. The effect. That Sacrosanct unit is going to be -1 to be hit until the end of the phase. However, if the unit is righteous, you get to select one other Sacrosanct unit within 6 inches, and they will also be -1 to hit. This is not necessarily going to be the easiest thing to set up, but when you set up 1 CP to make 2 units -1 to hit in melee, and just remember, your Sacrosancts, whenever they're led by characters, which they'll always be led by characters, are also going to be -1 to be wounded. This becomes a very powerful strat that is going to, this becomes a very powerful strat. And I think we're going to love it. Now, it's like I said, it will be pretty hard to pull off, and it's going to take a little bit of wheeling and dealing in order to actually make it work, but it's very, very solid. So one thing that we know right off the bat with this detachment is you're going to be really careful about what you're going to choose with your, to be righteous. And that's going to be in your command phase. So you have to plan your entire turn in your command phase, which isn't always the easiest thing, but that's okay. Warhammer is not necessarily an easy game. So we're going to choose in our command phase when we're going to be sending these Sacrosancts out, which does make it difficult to just have them mounted to be able to proc this. So I understand this would be difficult to use, but it's good. Let's talk about the last 2 stratagems, both of which I like. In the Heart of Heresy, fight phase 1 Adeptus Sororitas unit from your army that has not been selected to fight this phase. This stratagem is good. Until the end of the turn, improve the strength characteristic of melee weapons equipped by models in your unit by 1. If your unit is righteous, then until the end of the phase, improve the AP by 1 as well. Now, let's wrap it back. Let's go back to the Seraphim that we're going to be leading with a Super Canonist who's going to have 10 attacks. It's no longer Strength 5, it's now Strength 6, and it's AP 3, and it's Damage 3. It's brutal. Seraphim going up to Strength 5 and AP 3 on their power weapons puts them in a completely different class of amount of killiness. AP 3 in melee is rare, and it is nasty. This stratagem is awesome, and it's going to enable some really cool things. And then we have the Indefatigable Dedication. Your movement phase, just after an Adeptus Sororitas unit from your army falls back. Until the end of the turn, your unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it fell back. If you are righteous, you get to fall back, shoot, and charge. Very strong. Fall back and shoot is great. Fall back, shoot, and charge is greater. This detachment has awesome strats. It has one crappy strat, which is why I wanted to make sure I got that out of the way at the beginning. The Shield of Nile is like, yeah, it just annoys me. But everything else is amazing. These stratagems are incredible. The enhancements are The army rule is The strats are freaking great. And the army rule, when I say it's meh, that's what I mean. I don't mean it's bad. I mean it's meh. But when you stack what you can do with the strats in here, this detachment is freaking rocking and rolling. So remember, guys, this is in the context of, yes, I recognize and I understand Sisters got done dirty at the last battle, Balanced Status Slate. Hopefully they can reverse some of the points nerfs now, not on the Exorcist, and enable your army to play in a different way. because this is super, super cool, and I'm really excited to see the creativity that people are going to come up with in list building. So with that, I'm going to take off and appreciate all your attention. I hope you have a crumpin' freaking day. All right, bye-bye.